Hi everybody and welcome to my kitchen. I bring you another recipe in my series of Peruvian recipes, and this one is one of my absolute favorites. It's a little bit laborious, but the results are 100% worth it. Today we're going to be making this beautiful dish. We're going to be making Papa Rellena, which just means stuffed potato. There's a few components and a lot of ingredients for this particular recipe, but for a full list, check the description below. Our first step is to peel and boil our potatoes. You want to use potatoes that are basically going to crumble as they boil, because we want to be able to mash them nicely to get a nice kind of almost like a potato dough. While my potatoes are boiling, I'm going to prep the rest of my ingredients. I just have 2 red onions here that I'm going to dice. Next, I'm also going to dice up my chilies. These are where the substitutions are starting. In Peru, there are very specific types of chilies that are actually quite difficult to get outside of South America. So I'm using these just normal habaneros as a substitution. I am trying to grow my own, but unfortunately, I don't have green fingers, so I haven't quite got them to work yet. I want to show you how I do it now, living here in Europe and Ireland, because you will also find it difficult to find these ingredients. So I want to make this as accessible as possible to you. This will give you a very similar flavor, and the main thing is that we want heat from it. I'm also adding a bird's eye. Okay, my potatoes should be ready now. Let's have a look. If I stick a knife in, it goes in with no problem whatsoever. While they're hot, I'm gonna mash them, some salt, and a few cracks of pepper. Now that my potatoes are done and they're cooling, I'm gonna get on to making my delicious filling. I've got a frying pan here, which I'm gonna put some oil into. I'm gonna add in my onions, and I want them to become soft and to start getting a little bit translucent. To help them along, as usual, I'm gonna add some salt. I'm gonna go ahead and add in some minced garlic, and I'm also gonna go in with my chilies. Remember, this is our substitute. Usually you would need ají amarillo. My next ingredients are also a substitute. There is another type of Peruvian chili called ají panca. This is a very nice kind of dark red chili that has a very smoky flavor. Normally what I do as a substitute is I will use some tomato paste and I have some smoked paprika. And mixing these two together will give me a very similar texture, because what you use is a paste of ají panca, not the chili itself. So this will give me similar texture and similar flavor. This is the closest that I can get to the real thing. So I'm just gonna add it in now and mix that through. Immediately you can smell the smokiness of that paprika. While we're here, I'm also gonna add cumin. I'm gonna go in now with my minced beef. Normally you would use kind of really small dices of beef. I just find mince much easier. Mix that through with all your other ingredients. It's gonna be one delicious filling. My beef is almost cooked through now, so I'm gonna season with salt and pepper. Now I'm gonna go in with my raisins. Normally I don't like raisins, definitely not in sweet things, but when it comes to savory dishes, I find the sweetness of the raisins, that contrast I just find so delicious. If you don't like raisins, maybe give this one a try. The final ingredient is some olives, which I'm just gonna chop up a little bit and put into my mix. If you're not a big fan of olives, you can reduce the amount a little bit. Personally, I love them, so I would add more, but my other half doesn't like them, so I'd have to celebrate a little bit. I'm actually using quite lean beef, so it hasn't released as much liquid as I was expecting. And that's what the flour would have been for. If you find your filling is too runny, you can mix a bit of flour with water to make a bit of a slurry, put that through your mixture, and that would help to thicken everything up. But honestly, looking at how my mince is looking now, I'm not gonna need it at all, so I'm gonna leave that part out. I feel like it needs a little bit of something, and that's probably the tanginess from the olives. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of the olive juice into the mixture. Much better. For just a little bit of freshness at the end, I'm gonna chop up some parsley and mix it through my filling. This smells unreal. I need to give it another taste. Perfect. Let's move on to putting our Papa Rellena together. Both my potatoes and my filling have now cooled down. And actually, these two components of the recipe you can do the night before. The filling will concentrate its flavor and become nice and compact if you leave it overnight. And same with the potatoes, they become much easier to manage. Now that my potatoes are cooled, I'm actually gonna knead them a little bit. This is gonna help them to come together, and it will make it much easier to work with. So this is all I'm doing. With very clean hands, just pick up your potato, massage it or knead it a little bit. Obviously we couldn't do this when the potatoes were hot because you would burn your hand. Just continue doing that for about 2 to 3 minutes. Don't overdo it either, because your potato may become very soggy. Some recipes actually call to add egg and flour into this mixture. Personally, I've never had any success with that. The mixture becomes quite sticky and impossible to work with. If I grab some, I can easily shape it, let's say, into a ball. It doesn't stick very much to my hands, and it's nice and kind of tacky and holds its shape, so that's exactly what we want. You can actually portion out your potato dough into kind of like tennis ball size and start putting everything together. Okay, let's do it. You can flour your hands a little bit just to prevent sticking, but this dough, it's not looking like it's gonna want to stick anywhere. So just grab your ball and flatten it down a little bit and try to form like a little dip in the center, and that's where we're gonna put our filling. But just make sure you don't do it too thin, because otherwise it will break apart on you afterwards. And then what you're gonna do is just grab a spoonful of your filling. Just be careful not to overfill it. If you want to customize it a little bit, now would be a good time to add a few extra chopped olives as well, if you want that bit of extra flavor. What I am going to add is, I've got some boiled egg here, which I've cut into quarters. So I'm just gonna pop that in there. Then just very gently and carefully start closing up your dough. You're gonna make sure that everything is nice and well sealed. If you feel that you need a little bit of extra potato, don't be shy, take it from any leftover that you have. The main thing is that everything gets well covered and it's nice and compact. And this kind of oval shape is the traditional way to do it. Just like that, you've got your first one ready. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna run it through some flour. And what the flour is going to do is to help to keep it together when we go to cook it now in a minute. Just a lightly dusting of flour. So actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it back into this bowl, but I'm gonna add a bit of extra flour there just so it doesn't stick. Okay, I've finished shaping my potatoes. I'm gonna let them sit here for a bit, but in the meantime I'm gonna make a delicious salsa criolla, which is the perfect accompaniment for a dish such as this. This salsa is fantastic as a side for pretty much anything, and it's so simple. Let me show you how to do it. All you're gonna want is a red onion, and I'm gonna cut this. The official term is pluma, which just means feather, but it's just very thin strips, and just start cutting, maintaining the shape of the curve of the onion itself, and get it as thin as you can. Next, I'm gonna slice up a chili just like in the same manner as the onions, but again, typically this would be done with the ají amarillo. So he's cut them very thin. And finally, I'm gonna take a bunch of coriander and just chop it up. I'm going to season this now with a bit of salt and pepper. And finally, I'm gonna squeeze in some lime juice. How much really is up to taste. I like mine quite citrusy. You want plenty of lime juice, because basically the lime juice will pickle the onion a little bit. If you don't have enough, it's gonna taste too strong of onions. Adding salt also helps with that process. And you want to rest this for about 5 to 10 minutes to allow the lime juice to do its thing. Alright, we're on the home stretch now. I'm just gonna crack in some eggs here and whisk them up a little bit. The egg will also hopefully help to keep our Papa Rellena intact as it's frying. I only want a low to medium heat. If your oil is too hot for your potatoes, they will split and the filling will leak out. Everything is essentially already cooked, so all we want to do with the frying process is to give it a bit of color and a nice kind of crust on the outside, and to warm through the filling inside. My oil's come to temperature now. I'm just gonna roll my potatoes again on the flour. I wanna make sure that they don't stick. And shake off any excess, and then we're gonna go put it in the egg. This bit is gonna get a bit messy, but just use your hands, make sure that everything is covered. We want a nice egg wash in there. Okay, and then you can use your spatula to help you and drop it gently into the oil. I'm gonna do the same now with my second one. I probably want to put about 2 at one time just so I don't drop the temperature of the oil too much. And you can see my oil isn't bubbling like crazy so that we don't have any leakage or any cracks. Oh, it's getting nice and crispy at the bottom, we need a bit more color. So I'm thinking maybe about 2 to 3 minutes per side, but again, watch them like a hawk. Okay, I can see the nice beautiful color, that's what I want. We finished frying. Here are my Papa Rellenas. Just very quickly, I want to add a bit of extra greenery to our dish. So I've got a lettuce here, and I'm gonna just very thinly get some shavings of lettuce like this, and I'm just gonna give them a quick wash. Okay, so I've got my plate. I'm gonna get some of my lettuce, one of my potatoes, and I'm gonna go in with my delicious Salsa Criolla, and that is our beautiful dish. Boy, am I excited. This took forever to make, it feels. It looks amazing. I need to eat it right now. I'm gonna cut right through the middle so you can see it's nice and crispy on the outside. And there it is in all its glory with our delicious filling. Oh, it looks amazing. Make sure you get a bit of your salsa. It's absolutely delicious. It's such a nice combination of textures, crispy on the outside, soft in the middle, then you get that filling, which is quite salty as well with the olives that we put in there. There's a sweetness element to it as well from the raisins. The Salsa Criolla cuts through a bit of the oiliness with the freshness of the citrus. It is just phenomenal. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I was born in Peru, but I didn't actually live there. But luckily, my family were able to share their heritage, their delicious recipes, all this amazing food. I'm now sharing it with you. I implore you to try these recipes. They're absolutely phenomenal. And I know that they might not be the most traditional because I've had to substitute some ingredients, but the flavors are out of this world. If you enjoyed this recipe, make sure you give it a big like and let me know in the comments below when you try it, how you get on and what you think of it. I'm so excited and I really want to know your thoughts on this. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well so you don't miss any of my upcoming recipes. We have now covered traditional Irish recipes, Mexican inspired recipes, Italian recipes, Peruvian. We're traveling all over the world and I've got even more fantastic food coming your way. With that, I'll leave you for this video and enjoy.